Are we going live on YouTube, by the way?
Okay, assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome to Sheikhs Breaks. On tonight's show, we will be having a conversation around the new Muslim experience with our special guests, Suleiman Nunes, Miriam McLean, and Sean Claydon. We're having some technical difficulties with Miriam's connection. She's dialing in from Australia, but hopefully we'll be speaking with her soon. Before we go any further, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Brother Khalik, on the buttons, who will be taking questions from the floor and directing them to our guests.
Hey, assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Walaikum salam, Khalik. How are you? All right? Looking very bright and breezy.
Thank you. And you as well.
So we'll be having a slightly different format today. We'll be taking questions from the audience throughout the session, and would encourage everyone to digitally raise their hand, which I think is on the bottom bar of the Zoom screen, and then ask live in between segments. So let me just admit everyone. And Khalik, shall I make you host now?
Yeah, co-host, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So to our first guest, Brother Suleiman, you may know through Bromley Muslim Youth Group, Friday Football, or Penge Food Bank, which is instrumental in setting up. So assalamu alaikum, Suleiman. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, brother. I'm very good. And salam alaikum to everybody on the group.
Great to see you. Great to see you.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.
No, not at all. Not a pleasure. So, Suleiman, I know we've met many times.
Yes.
But I'd like you to give the audience some background as to what you do, where you grew up, and your journey into Islam.
Okay, so I was born in England, and then at a fairly young age, I went to the Caribbean, and I lived in the Caribbean, mainly Barbados, and to a lesser extent, a place called Guyana. I went to school over there and lived there for a few years, then came back here when I was almost 16. And then basically over a few years ago, I trained as a teacher, and I worked as a class teacher for a while. And then after that, I trained as a sports coach. And presently I live in the Midlands, and I coach and lecture sport. And I also coach at a football club, a professional football club as well. In terms of my journey to Islam, it took 5 years, my journey to Islam in the late 90s, and it was varied and a lot of things involved within my journey to Al-Islam. I mean, I can go into more detail if you want me to, but yeah.
So, Suleiman, you said sort of 5 years ago.
It took 5 years for me.
It took 5 years ago. So when did that journey begin for you?
So the journey began around 1996. So I have been Muslim from the year 2000. It took 5 years. It took 5 years because it took 5 years. Allahu Alam. Basically, first of all, through a brother talking to me, a brother from Trinidad, and then after that, to begin with, I didn't, although I listened to him, but I didn't pay that much attention. Then I went to Morocco, and I met many brothers over there who invited me to the masjid, who talked to me and who showed me such beautiful love and brotherhood as well, that it attracted me as well. Then coming back to England, and over time, somebody gave me a Quran, and after a while of starting to read it and look at it, it made a very deep impression on my heart. And it's something, as I read more and more of the Quran, I couldn't ignore it, and I had to go back and read more and read more and read more. Then through discussions with people, through different things, signs that I think that Allah signposted me to. Basically, I came to a time where just speaking with a brother that I decided, look, you know, I can research for the rest of my life, but at some point I need to take the to just take the plunge. And basically up to almost 5 years, that's when I decided to take my shahada.
Subhanallah. Amazing story. So tell me a little bit more about Trinidad and Guyana, and who are the brothers there that sort of you were in touch with?
When I was over in the Caribbean, I was much younger, so I didn't really have much contact with Al-Islam over there. It was more when I came over to this country, and then I met different people who spoke to me about Al-Islam. So my experience in the Caribbean was very limited about Al-Islam, and to be honest, in some of the Caribbean islands, the experience is limited. Since I've gone back in the last few years, I have noticed that, for instance, in Barbados, there's now 3 different masjids. In Trinidad, the Islamic community is very strong. And in Guyana, where my father is from and my family are from, there is a strong Islamic community. So, yeah, it's growing all the time as well, as we know.
SubhanAllah. So in terms of your experience here, Sulaiman, can you sort of give us some idea about how the community or the people you were in touch with sort of gave you support?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, brother. At that time when I took my shahada, I wouldn't say, I know we talked about the positive aspects of the support. I wouldn't say that there was a huge amount of support from the community, not my own personal experience. I had support from my Ajra, I had support from the brother who'd given me dawah. I had support from Imam Malik at Al-Muzamil in Gatton Road. And I had support from a few brothers who I knew at the time, and their support was very positive and very helpful. They directed me towards things to read and helped me in terms of learning my prayers. But in terms of the wide community support, it wasn't really there for me. But alhamdulillah, I still kept on and still learned and still you know, pursued and learned about my deen. So yeah.
Fantastic. And I think obviously one of the biggest questions that from me and from, I would guess, from the audience as well would be, you know, what were the challenges that you faced becoming a new Muslim, especially, you know, that time ago and in that era?
Well, from family, particularly from my mother and my father. They were non-Muslims, and they were against it. Also, yeah, predominantly from family who just basically felt, well, why was I taking up this religion? And they couldn't understand it, and they couldn't understand why I had you know, metamorphosized from being somebody who was, you know, Rasta, had long hair, long locks and whatever, and did this and did that, and used to live a certain life, and they couldn't understand that. They felt it was a phase. And also the challenges were for me as well from people that had known me before and found it hard to accept a new lifestyle and a new me. Also, as well, I would say the challenges were for me in understanding how to assimilate or to live my as a Muslim in terms of my prayers, and how to incorporate that into my lifestyle, and also certain things that I still had to give up. You know, for instance, at the time that I was still doing that, I had to understand, you know, to give them up. So, for instance, at the time, I was quite heavily involved in the music business. I used to play guitar, and it was something that, you know, over time I gave up. And those are the main challenges that I found at the time within my experience. Yeah.
And I mean, really interesting that you mentioned your parents, Sulaiman. I mean, I know it's very personal, but I mean, could you sort of shed a bit more light on that? And I mean, how did things progress over the years?
Very slowly, very slowly, brother, basically. So my father has passed away. Allah knows best. He was against Islam from the beginning till when he passed away. So it didn't really progress with that situation. As for my mother, she was atheist. Through lots of conversations with her, I have tried to skillfully maneuver the conversation so that, we start to talk about belief in God, one God. And over time, she has started to accept that. And now I just introduce in the conversation, I introduce Islam in small ways, and she's more accepting of it. Also because of my wife as well. She gets on very well with my wife. So I think that helps as well between the conversation with her also starting to accept Al-Islam. As for the rest of my family, I mean, they now know that I'm Muslim. They now know it's not a phase and that it's lasted for a good length of time, subhanallah. But yeah, that's it. That's as far as it's gone. It's gone to a certain level, but I wouldn't say it's gone beyond anything that. I mean, I give dawah to them and I talk to them, but that's really as far as it's gone. Yeah.
Jazakallah khair,
Barakallah fi.
And just sort of last question for now, but before perhaps we take some questions from the floor.
Yeah.
Is how better do you think that communities could support sort of Muslims, new Muslims or
who coming
people,
now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, something that they have now that I've seen in many massages, such as Lewisham, for instance, when I was in London, obviously beginner classes for Quran and for learning Arabic is something that it's very popular now and it's widespread. It wasn't so much, I didn't see so much of that. Maybe that was just my ignorance. So that's something that obviously we should continue and whatever. But I would say just a network of community support, social network for brothers and sisters, so that they feel welcome, they feel that they're part of the community. A social network could include, for instance, as you know yourself, like a football group, where if that person, I mean, I'm just giving an example, or badminton, they invite that person, and so the person socialize with them, and through the socialization, they learn about their Islam, and they also feel that they're part of a group. They don't feel that they're just out on a limb. Also, as well as that, like things like going out to eat, restaurants and that kind of thing, and that person feels again that they're part of a group. And as well as that, friendship groups as well with the person, I think that would be a good thing. And particularly one thing I would say, brother, and I listened to a khutbah on this the other day, particularly on days like Eid and celebration days, when if you're not, or if you weren't, your family is not Muslim and you don't have somewhere to go around to celebrate with, I think inviting particularly new Muslims to family gatherings, it would be a good idea, so that they get the true significance of Eid, and they basically really appreciate it and enjoy that day as well. So those are some of the ideas that I would say. There are many more as well, just emphasizing the importance to a new Muslim of the social side of Al-Islam. And it's not just about, okay, go away, learn it at home, learn your prayers, and that's it. It's a social religion, a religion where with the brotherhood and sisterhood. So yeah.
Exactly. I mean, one thing that we talked about at Al-Emaan, and we've not got round to it yet because I think it needs a bit more sort of research, was mentoring. So we were looking at sort of brothers and sisters in the community that would be able to mentor, but then to have the right background for mentoring. I don't think it's for everyone, but sort of getting people to take those courses, and then we sort of have a background to sort of officiate in that field.
Mm.
But I mean, you set an example with with your football coaching and certainly the food bank initiative. By the way, we've had some minor success with that since.
I've seen
know
it.
if you heard. Yeah.
I
But
need
we'll
to
see,
contact
inshallah.
Avais as well, inshallah. I need to contact
Well,
Avais, you know.
hopefully
But yeah,
he's on the call, so
yes,
he'll
he
be,
is. I can see it.
you
Yeah.
can see him.
Yeah.
So, Jazakallah khair so much. I
Barakallah
really
feek.
want to sort of get people involved now. So
Yes.
if anyone's able to unmute and ask a question, then please feel free. I know there's a few hands up there, so
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, mashallah, wonderful story there. Barakallah fi. I'm gonna. There's a couple of hands up for some questions. First up, quick off the mark was Awais, so I think I'm gonna ask him to unmute and go ahead and ask you a question.
Hey, assalamu alaikum.
Oh, alaikum salam, brother. How you doing?
I'm good. I've been meaning to call you.
I've been meaning to call you. Sorry, brother.
I thought this is the best way to catch you.
Oh no. Just as very busy up here in the Midlands. Very busy. Okay, very busy.
Cool. I got a quick question, bro.
Yes.
Okay, I'm really interested because you were saying how your kind of family members, your uncles, aunties, they were very against the idea of Islam, and then you mentioned how in the Caribbean, there's like free mosques opened up. So I imagine, as in originally, this was due to the whole idea of Islam being so alien, and now with Islam being more prevalent in the countries back home, how do they feel about that?
You mean my family?
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if it's changed their opinion radically, brother. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if it's changed their opinion radically. I mean, when I went out to Barbados, for instance, the last time, I still met a lot of people out there, particularly from the Black community, who seem to think in Barbados, that is not in Trinidad and Guyana, seem to think that Islam is just an Asian religion. So it's still a lot of education, I would say, and that's the key thing, is education in terms of my family, and education in terms of them understanding that Islam is a global religion. It's not just for one race of people, so they're no longer antagonistic towards the religion. They're just I mean, I'll talk to them about it, but they're very much set in their, for instance, their Christian views, because particularly in the Caribbean, it's a very Christian, orientated place. Yeah, so that's the best way I can describe it, really. Yeah.
Cool. That's really interesting, because then if you look at Christianity, that also came from colonization, right? So anyway,
definitely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the question, Awais. Jazakallah khair for answering there as well. We have Umar, who has a question as well. I'm going to ask him to unmute his line as well.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, brother.
How you doing, bro? Long time.
Alhamdulillah.
Sort of. 1 week.
Sort of.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
So question I had,
yes,
mashallah, I mean, we've spoken a lot, and we actually, this is the first time I've heard about so the length of time and the difficulty and the pressures that you had going through in terms of becoming a Muslim. I'm curious now, sort of having gone through that challenging stage, what would be your advice to someone who is thinking about taking the Shahada, but is going through all of those difficulties? How would you advise them sort of to navigate that? Because it's something that I've actually come across with people have asked me that question. I think you're better placed to answer.
It's a hard question, brother. It's a question that in terms of that, I mean, I kind of hark back to my own experience at the time. I mean, I had mainly 1 or 2 good brothers around me who were really supportive and helpful. So I would say for somebody who is in that situation, that they need to do as much learning of Al-Islam as possible. They need to really learn in depth about their religion, and so that when they go to the masjid for khutbahs, they really understand in context what it is they're hearing Again, harping back to Amir's question, you know, to have a community around them, to have brothers and sisters calling them, contacting them, to have people who are supporting them, that even if they've listened to a khutbah and they don't understand it, somebody who can explain and go into more detail, to have social networking groups. I mean, I know I'm repeating myself here, but things like that is really helpful. And at the time I didn't have that, and I just had one or two brothers who I'd see now and then and whatever. But I think really that person, you know, going to classes, attending classes, mentoring, like Amir said, but really learning about the Islam and, you know, the Quran and hadiths and whatever sources they can, attending lectures again, which I didn't do at the time. That was my own choice, my prerogative, but attending lectures and, you know, the social networking groups as well, not just on the phone. I mean, I know we're in a COVID pandemic, but obviously, inshallah, when we get through that, but meeting up with people and talking with people, discussion groups, I think that would be the way forward, which I didn't have at the time, but I think that would be the way forward.
Okay, that's invaluable. To be honest, you know, the social networking you've mentioned, that hits home. So thank you.
Yeah, Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khair to Umar and Jazakallah khair for answering there. We've got a couple more questions here, actually. I'm going to ask if Ismet would like to unmute her line and ask the question, or would she like me to ask on her behalf? But you know, see if she's happy to come on.
All right.
Sister Ismet, are you there?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Yeah, no, just wondered, how did your daily life change, if at all?
It definitely changed. It definitely changed.
Not what people thought about you around you, but you yourself. And
within myself.
Yeah,
well,
what did you
I'll
do?
be honest with you, sister, because it was over 5 years. It was like a gradual change anyway. And even before I became Muslim in that 5th year, I'd fasted the year before, but I'd fasted without the support and understanding. So my life changed in terms of making the prayers. You know, my life changed in terms of attending the masjid for Jummah. My life changed in terms of just in terms of me starting to learn about Al-Islam. And also, to be honest, internally, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And then people that saw me at the time said to me that I looked like a weight had been lifted off of my shoulders, because those 5 years were very turbulent. And I was going through a lot of internal conflict in terms of, like, I'll be honest with you, I felt like I was running away from something. And every time I tried to run away, Allah was chasing me and putting this in front of me. So when I did finally accept Al-Islam, embrace Al-Islam, it was like a weight had been lifted off of my shoulders. And that's the best way I could describe it in terms of how it was day to day and how I felt. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jazakallah khair. There's another wonderful question from Mariha, actually. If Mariha would like to ask the question for herself, or would you prefer for me to ask that on your behalf? Mariha? I think maybe she would like me to ask it.
No problem.
So let me see if I can do justice to it. Okay, so after the Hijrah, the Muhajirun were paired with a member of the Ansar to help them integrate into society. It has been suggested that this practice can be adopted in modern day society, where revert Muslims can be paired with Muslim or Muslim families for support. Is this the idea behind the mentor scheme you mentioned? And what can be done to facilitate this in our community?
Well, you asking me that, I mean, I would think that's a good idea, because as I said, on Eid particularly, pairing with a family, an invitation to a family, to the family gathering, it gives that person a clearer picture and the full significance of Eid, I would think that would be helpful. I think that would be very helpful. And, the person understands family life, the importance of family life in Al-Islam. And I would think that would be definitely, to answer it in a short, I would think that would definitely be a good idea. Obviously, dependent upon the person's commitment, work commitment and everything, but at least at some time that pairing with a family, going and sharing that time with the family, if a family was able to do that, would be very helpful. And so that the person didn't feel alone, because I'm sure there's many, I don't like the word reverts, by the way, but there's many brothers and sisters who've embraced Al-Islam who just feel at times alone. So, that would be
absolutely a
very good idea, I would have thought.
Suleiman, it's actually a question I was going to ask actually about the whole revert-convert thing. I mean, do you have a particular view on that?
Well, we're born Muslims. We're all born Muslims. So we're only coming back to something that was there anyway. And, as a brother said to me, I embraced Al-Islam. So rather than use the word revert, I know it's a common word, but I would say I embraced Al-Islam because I was born a Muslim. We're all born Muslims anyway, we just don't know it. And then of course, by the things or the conditioning that we're given over the years, sometimes it takes us away, and sometimes we go back to what we were in the first place, how Allah made us in the first place.
I think that's what
we'll come back to the mentoring point, because that's a really important one, but it requires a bit more, I think, study, if you like. But Jazakallah khair, Salam.
One point to just say, sorry, I don't want to take up too much time, but regarding the mentoring, and I think you mentioned it, so I think it's really key for that mentor to have an understanding of and a close relationship with that person that they mentor, and how that person learns and how that person ticks. If they don't, the person doesn't want to be too judgmental or too, this and that, because all of those things that they've learned it over time, and it takes time maybe for them to shed certain things that they've been doing for a long time.
Exactly. I mean, that was what I was getting at, is that that person will probably need to be trained in counseling, have some experience of of religious knowledge and also worldly knowledge, and so it's a tricky one, but it's something that we've talked about, and I think something that needs some due diligence, if you see what I mean. So
definitely,
and a great point that you made. So Suleiman, if I could ask you to take a seat on our virtual sofa, and we're going to try and get Sister Miriam on the call. I know we've had some technical difficulties getting her connected all the way from Australia. So Miriam, have you managed to get on the call? Are you able to unmute yourself? I can see you, just about. Do you have audio?
Yeah, we could see her earlier on. We're hoping that it was working.
So Miriam, we can't see you just yet. You should have audio because there's no mute button on, but try turning your audio up. If not, no, that's that. Okay. Have another go. If not, I know Sean's on the call as well. We might be able to segue into Sean and come back to you, Miriam. But so close yet so far. All right. So Khalik, perhaps if you could help Miriam offline.
Yeah, I'm going to try and message her just now.
Yeah, great. Sean, can you unmute and come onto the call, and we'll see if we can get back to Miriam.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum, Sean. How are you? All right?
Walaikum salam. I'm good.
Yeah. What's happening?
Sorry for being late. I forgot about I actually completely forgot about the Zoom meeting. I didn't even know what day it was, actually.
No, you're early. You're early because you said you were working till 8:30, so I wasn't expecting you till 9. So
no, I mean, I wasn't even at work because of furlough, but
okay.
I completely forgot. I had my time and just was a bit bad, but
yeah. No, don't worry. Well, thanks for joining. Jazakallah khair. So, Sean, I don't know if you caught some of the earlier conversation we had with Brother Suleiman.
Oh yeah.
But if you could just tell the listeners, the audience, a bit about yourself, where you grew up, and your journey into Islam, and then we'll take it from there.
All right. Well, my name's Sean, and I grew up in Lewisham, Catford, for a majority of my life, and I moved to Bromley. I think, how long ago was it now? When I was about end of secondary school, so like start of college. So when I was about 16, and let me think. I'm not prepared right now, but I'm just gonna go over my journey with Islam. So I became Muslim 6 months ago now, and how it started was mainly kind of the journey started from me kind of trying to find myself, and I actually accepted Islam originally because I started to take my own faith seriously, Christianity seriously, and kind of started from my two best friends. They kind of started to take Christianity seriously, and it was a very like strange thing for me because all my life, like I've always believed in God, but I've just never really took the religion aspect of life of anything serious. And I don't know, I feel like it just made me think about myself, and I've always believed in God, and I definitely do now, of course, but I've just never really taken it seriously. And I think in that to change it then kind of made me think about it, but also I just thought like I don't want to do something just because my friends have done it, you know? Like I kind of wanted to look for myself. So in that I kind of distanced myself from them. And I've always like felt like I've been seeking God, but I felt like I just didn't know how to go about it. And so for like this happened about a year ago. So for about a good year, I kind of was just on my own, kind of trying to find myself and like seeking answers really. And I don't know, there's a lot of it's very difficult to explain because it's like a lot of things mainly happen internally, not necessarily like physically, but it was just a lot of thinking and a lot of just time needed. So I think for a while I was a strict Christian. Like from like 2019 to the start of 2020, I was a strict Christian. Like I stopped doing a lot of things, and I kind of was like very like strict in it, and I made it clear that I'm Christian. And I think Islam was introduced to me when I moved to Stratford area, because before I didn't actually know much about Islam, and I actually just kind of had not a negative opinion, but I just believed what the media portrayed about Islam. So I kind of just, my views were basically based on that. And also a lot of Christians kind of have a negative view on it anyways, because I feel like with loads of religions, we kind of, to make our people believe us more, we kind of tear down other religions in a sense. And I feel like the people around me were people like that. Like I went to a church school, didn't really know anyone that was Muslim. And even if I did, they weren't like on their deen necessarily. They just were like, if you know what I mean. So I think when I moved to Stratford, it was introduced to me more that I see like a lot more people that are Muslim, women in hijabs and stuff. And it was something I wasn't used to, especially I feel like growing up where I grew up, I just didn't see it. And now I recognize that it is actually around me, but because I didn't see it, I just didn't know. I just didn't see it. It was weird. And basically, although I was growing up, when I moved to Stratford, there was a lot of Muslims and stuff. And I kind of kept my guard up, like, oh, these people are lost. They don't know what they're doing. Like, I was kind of, I had a negative view, but not necessarily just for no reason, more just because of what I didn't know about it. And I kind of wanted to make myself believe in what I believed in more. And the problem was I was going through a very dark time internally. Like, I kind of felt lost and I felt alone. And although I felt like I was getting closer to God, or thought I was, I kind of wasn't. And I realize now that God was putting me through the steps to try and get me to where I am now. Because like, I don't know, I think I was meant to be Muslim, but it's just, I couldn't just I feel like I couldn't just become Muslim, you know. I had to really go through steps to actually then accept Islam. So what made me really accept it was kind of, well, no, it doesn't even make. I met a friend and we got it was just to talk about it. And I was one that didn't like to talk about my faith, but with this person, I really could talk and just I learned. But I wasn't necessarily asking them questions. It was more just naturally we'll talk about it. They ask me questions and I'll ask them and stuff. And yeah, so I think just days went past and the lockdown happened and all that stuff. And I think Ramadan is when at first I felt good, but then I just started to feel very confused and lost, because for years I would wait, not for years.
You mentioned Ramadan, Sean.
Yeah.
I mean, famously, this Ramadan we saw you take your Shahada live on Zoom, which was completely mind-blowing for all of us. So, but which Ramadan you took? How many years ago?
This Ramadan.
Oh, okay. So it was this Ramadan.
Yeah, I'm not good at talking that much. I'm kind of
no. You're doing great. You're doing great.
Listen, I kind of blab a bit, but
no.
So,
I know where you're coming from. So listen, you raised a lot of big points there. So the first one that really struck me was the fact that you were quite an observant Christian. So if you're an observant Christian, why would you choose Islam? I mean, for me, growing up,
that's what I was about to get to.
Yeah, go on.
So basically, obviously, as Christians, they believe that obviously Jesus is God. Now, of course, it's looking at Christianity is a lot. I feel like Christianity is got a lot of people believe different things. So they believe in the Holy Trinity. So Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Some people would say Jesus is God. Some would say he's the Son of God. And there's loads of different things. Now, to me, I used to always believe that, and I used to express that if I was asked. But I came to a realization that I didn't actually believe it. I was kind of telling myself to believe it. And I think the reason this happened was because during Ramadan, I know Ramadan is a very spiritual month for Muslims. It's kind of when we're most closest to God. And so I reckon that's the reason I was thinking that, was because I was kind of it was lockdown and it was Ramadan and I had no one to speak to. I was kind of alone, and it really allowed me to think about it. And I just literally randomly just started to question Jesus being God. And then I was I came to the realization I didn't actually believe it. And it just made me think about, so if I don't believe that, then I can't be Christian. And then I started to this sounds weird, but I don't really know how to explain it, but because it doesn't sound real, but I guess I'm just going to say it anyways. I started to have videos start popping up on my computer about Islam and slavery and how Christianity was introduced to slaves and stuff. And it was just interesting to me. And I just felt I didn't really know this. And I just learned a lot about Islam. And then more videos were popping up on my laptop. And it was just interesting to me. And it was kind of giving me answers that I needed. And then I watched a video about a convert, someone that converted to Islam. And he was telling his story. And during these times, I was feeling very low and lost and confused, and I just needed answers. And I even prayed. I said to God, please, just give me a sign, show me something. And I guess I was receiving a sign, because I was getting answers through all this research I was doing, and the way they were describing how they felt, at the time, this is exactly how I was feeling. And after watching a few videos, I read the Quran. I downloaded the app on my phone, read it, and during this week, I just felt so happy and felt like I was getting answers, and it was really overwhelming. And it just all made sense to me. And I don't know, it's weird. It was never really introduced to me. I just kind of it just kind of found me in a sense. And yeah.
SubhanAllah, that's amazing. So Jazakallah khair again for sharing that, Sean. I know it's not easy, it's quite personal, sensitive stuff.
Yes,
but you're doing well. So there's another point that sort of stood out in your little presentation there, but was the media and how that affected you before you were Muslim. So what was the perception of Islam, out of interest, as a practicing Christian at that time before you were Muslim?
It was very, I wouldn't say it's like very negative, because I wouldn't like be rude to someone that's Muslim because they're Muslim, but I guess behind closed doors amongst my friends, we would sometimes make comments and stuff like that, like about like, I remember I made a comment about Muhammad Ali one time. Because I was like, because obviously he used to be Christian and I think he converted. And I was like, Muhammad Ali, he took it. Because obviously I think his name was Cassius Clay originally. And then I was like, he took it so deep because he used the Prophet's name. And we used to make comments like that. And then stupidly, of course, but I think it wasn't always necessarily very negative. I just people kind of slander other things to make your thing, to make you seem better about yourself, about what you're doing. But really, it was just stupid. So I think it was just little petty stuff rather than, I never had a negative opinion about it, because especially when I started to meet people that are Muslim, I actually realized like there's good people. I mean, other than even like extremist people and stuff, and how the media makes it like, it's Islam and stuff. I looked at it and thought, originally I thought, yeah, that's mad. Like the Quran teaches negativity and violence and stuff. But I think it was just me being naive and stupid, really.
Well, no. I mean, you've come a long way already, very quickly. But just a last point before maybe we take some questions from the audience, Sean, if you're happy to do that. So the videos, I was interested in the videos that keep popping up, because nowadays, and we did a little bit on social media in the last session, you know, if you sort of Google something or you look for trainers or something like that, suddenly your Insta feed is all Adidas and Nike. So I mean, if mashallah, if you're looking at stuff surrounding Islam, then stuff's going to pop up for you. But on that subject of what you saw, I mean, obviously the concern from that side is propaganda, negative propaganda, and how that promotes perhaps negative thinking within the Muslim culture. I mean, those videos that you saw, have they been proven to be correct, useful, accurate, or have you thought, actually, no, what I saw then wasn't right, and now I know what's happening, I know where to go?
Are you talking about like the negative toward
well, the actual material, did you find that it was accurate to what you know now, or is it
what do you mean, like what made me like help me to become Muslim?
No, so you know those videos that you mentioned were popping up and you were saying that's what got you interested?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like all the videos were basically just people telling their story, kind of like I'm doing now, but they did it a lot better though. But I think they're actually very like, I mean, I understand them a lot more now, because at the time it was kind of just more overwhelming. Like, they're kind of describing how I feel right now and what I'm going through. But now I kind of understand it a lot more, and I really I feel what they're saying. And the funny thing is though, I don't actually remember any of the videos I watched, and it's annoying because I wanted to like, some people ask me and I'm saying, this is the guy I watched, but I don't actually remember because it randomly popped up. And I understand like with like YouTube and Instagram, you tend to get like suggested videos based on what you watch. I had never watched a video about Islam, so there's no way it could have been popping up on my laptop. So that's why it was so like, whoa. Obviously I do now a lot too much, but yeah, it was it's weird.
No, Jazakallah khair. So I'm going to pass you over to Brother Khalik, Sean, so he can take some questions from the audience and from the chat as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. Yeah, a fantastic story. I mean, we've been so close to watching your story because obviously you joined us in the previous Ramadan, YouTube and Zoom call. It was great, and it's lovely to see you again. Yeah, I think there are a few questions that have popped up. I'm gonna ask those who've got questions if they're happy to speak first. Otherwise, I'll read out a couple of the questions. Sophia, you happy to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Khalid. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
You speak so well, Sean.
No,
don't say, don't put yourself down. Your story's unique. Your journey's unique. It's don't put yourself. It was great. You're great, mashallah.
Thank you.
It's one of these things that I think as people that I'm speaking for myself, I guess, but being born a Muslim, when I meet or hear of someone that's accepted Islam, I just want to sit with them and I just want them to tell me, what was it? What stirred you? And it's very personal. So this is really a wonderful opportunity that we're having, hearing your stories. And, I know it's really hard to be able to look into your heart and know what all those changes were. But I think the question, which I should, because I can talk and I've got lots of questions, but the one that I put on the chat was, as before you became Muslim, the perceptions that you had of Islam, and actually now that you are practicing Muslims and, the perception of Islam that you have now and the difference between the two, what I'm wanting to ask is, as a community or as Muslims, what can we do to help show Islam in the light that it is? Because you yourself said that, you see Muslims and maybe not feel sorry for them, but just think, oh, they're misguided, or, they don't really know what they're doing. What can we do? Is there anything that we could do differently? Any advice that you can give to us?
I think being Muslim, I feel like, from what I've learned as well, I feel like the best way we can show the truth is through our actions, and not necessarily like what we say, but just more being a good people. Like people always want to go out their way to like help people and say, you need to do this. Oh, like Islam's good, and that's good. We should do that, but I feel like the best way you can help someone really is through your actions and just being a good person and making dua, and just that's how I feel like we can do it. And I feel like Allah will help guide us to get through it and do better and spread the right message, because the world we live in, unfortunately, is very negative and it's crazy. But I think it's just through our actions, and it's a bit vague, I know, but I just feel like we just need to be good people and around people around us. And it's difficult because, especially like I have loads of friends that don't agree with what I did, and they say stuff like, the same comments that I was named, but I feel like you just have to be good people, and that's all I think I can think of.
That's amazing that you said that, because actually the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's how he actually did it. I mean, he actually did everything through his actions and through the beauty of his personality, and he never necessarily went out there and rammed it down people's throats. It was really done in an organic way with so much beauty, and I think there's a few comments that have come out from there. Jazakallah khair to Sophie for the lovely question, and you've articulated it so amazingly. I think there's another question. I'm gonna ask Alina if she would love to come and say a few words. I think she's made a couple of comments. We'd love to hear them live on air.
Assalamu alaikum. It's not Alina, actually, it's Asma, her mum.
Oh, lovely to have you, Asma.
Wa alaikum assalam. Yeah, so no, lovely stories, and mashallah, it's always very inspiring to hear how people come into Islam. And exactly like Sophie was saying, I often feel the same, mashallah, we are so blessed that we are born Muslim. And alhamdulillah, we try our best to follow it. And we've had good parents who have taught us Arabic and the Quran and had a lot of emphasis on learning the religion and make sure that we learn it. And we've done the same, taught our kids. But it's always very inspiring to hear the stories of people who come into Islam. So yeah, no, we saw you at Ramzan. I remember you taking your Shahada, alhamdulillah. So I think all the kids were there as well. They all enjoyed listening. And mashallah, the whole session's going really well. And I'm happy that I'm part of it, that I can be part of it. And I'm even asked to speak. So Alina, I was just telling Alina, I said, Alina, I've got my headphones on actually because they're doing something else. And I'm saying, oh, Alina, they're calling you. I better speak up. So Jazakallah. And yeah, lovely to hear your story.
No, Jazakallah khair for the lovely comments, and thanks a lot for answering. There's another question from Sabina. Sabina, would you like to come on air and ask your question?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you so much to everyone for putting this on, and yeah, it is really, really interesting. Alhamdulillah. So my question is, when you, Barakallah Fik, when you said that you moved to Stratford and you started to see Muslims more, and you mentioned that you know there's women wearing headscarves a lot, can you kind of elaborate on that? What do you think? Because I sometimes think that when people see me when I go somewhere, especially in this area or in Essex where I grew up, there's not very many Muslims. I sometimes wonder, like when I go into town and stuff, what do people think when they see me wearing a headscarf?
Yeah. I mean, now I like it. That I think it's very. I think modesty is amazing, even as men as well. Like men don't think they need to be modest. Like I feel like I'm proper. Like think about what. Well, not even think about what I'm dressing, but I feel like it's good. Like, and it shows like. I mean, it's not really. It doesn't have anything to do with me really, but because now I don't really think anything. I just think, oh, you're practicing, you know. But I think it's just important. I understand it's for protection and to get closer to God and stuff. But obviously before, I never really thought about it because I didn't really see it a lot. But I guess I can understand people will have negative views and stuff. Like there's people that say like it's not good and stuff, like in the media. But me personally, I think it's good. You know, like, I think it's good. I don't really know what to say.
Jazakallah khair, that's fine. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair for the question and Jazakallah khair for answering that. Mariha, you're up next. Please feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I just wanted to ask, on a follow-up to your point about actions being more important in terms of doing da'wah to non-Muslims, I was just kind of, I guess it's a thought and a question as well. In order to be able to show our actions to non-Muslims, a key part of that is actually integrating with them and interacting with them. And I think sometimes in Muslim communities, even though it's really important to keep good company and be friends with Muslims and keep Muslims close, it is also sometimes we have a tendency to stick to our own. And I think when we don't really integrate with other members of society, interaction, whether it's with projects at work, friends, then they're not really going to get a chance to know Muslims and what we're all about. Maybe on a superficial level, you know, crossing the street, or you might see someone pick up a piece of rubbish off the street in a hijab and think, oh, that Muslim's done something good. But we're not really going to get to engage with non-Muslims on a deeper level unless we make an active effort to interact with them. So I just feel like, and I guess just for you, did you have any real interaction with Muslims, you know, before your conversion? And if not, I mean, just what's your opinion on it generally?
I mean, I had brief interaction, like let's say at work, because there was a lot of Muslims. That's kind of how I met a lot more Muslims through working. Because I worked like in Stratford, like Westfield, like, and I kind of just learned more. Not even because I never asked people questions about their religion. Because even me, I don't actually like talking about my faith. It's kind of more personal. But I feel like you just learn just by hearing people and stuff. and I actually became close friends with one of them. And I feel like even becoming friends with them kind of helped me. It's weird because who they were as a person kind of made me understand it more, and actually made me change my perception on it a lot because of how good they were. And they never really just, it's not they don't really talk about it. They ask me more questions about Christianity than anything. So I feel like interaction is important. Like even my friends, majority of my friends are not Muslim. I only have Muslim friends I've met through the mosque, and like most of my friends are not Christian. I mean, not Muslim or Christian, but I feel like even they're learning a bit from me, kind of, and some of them respect me for it. Some of them don't talk to me anymore. So I think interaction is important. Like I feel like as Muslims, we should be amongst other Muslims, but also we shouldn't be scared to interact with people that are non-Muslim as well, because how else is anyone going to understand us, and how are we going to, understand them as well, like, so, yeah.
No, Jazakallah khair, and Jazakallah khair for the lovely question as well. Actually, you just sort of glossed over saying that, you don't speak to some of your friends anymore. Did you have some friends who just for the sake that you had become Muslim kind of distance themselves from you?
Well, in my story, with my journey, I explained how I had 2 friends that became Christian, serious Christians, and unfortunately, we don't really. I still talk to them, but when I told them, they were very angry. Like we had a huge argument.
Oh goodness.
And it was these were my friends that I've known for over 10 years. I would actually class them as my real brothers. Even now, I understand why they do it, because they took Christianity quite to an extreme level. And I think because of it, they kind of we still see each other here and there, but it went from seeing each other every day, kind of, to more, I don't see them for 3-4 months now.
Sure.
And it's I haven't spoken to them since maybe some holidays, and we used to speak every day. So, and even I feel uncomfortable sometimes chatting to them, because I feel like I can't even say inshallah around them, because I feel like they're gonna judge me and stuff like that. Even when it comes to prayer, one thing I've struggled with is if I'm out or if I'm amongst someone that isn't Muslim, I struggle to I would ask them, can I pray? And I've had people tell me, no, I can't pray in their house. And it's I think I understand it, but it is difficult at times, because I feel like I'm never going to judge someone based on their religion. Or I wouldn't now anyways, but it's difficult, man, because they were very close to me. But I feel like in this life, we're going to lose people, if you're going to lose people on the way. And I guess it's just have to accept it, I guess. And I have accepted it, actually. It's not very that difficult, I can't lie. At the time it was hard, but now I'm kind of just
getting used to it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm used to it, and I'm going to meet new people on the way. I'm still young. I'm 22 years old. It's not
yeah.
I'm not gonna. There's more out there, and I've met loads of people on the way. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and hopefully, inshallah, you guys overcome this, and they can understand and have that kind of mutual respect amongst each other.
Inshallah.
And it's early days right now, and like you said, you're all very young. So inshallah, you guys will all get back together. That's what we pray for.
Inshallah.
Yeah, so I think that's everyone. I did see Rubina Saifuddin, who had her hand raised, but then it went down. I'll just double check, and I'll ask if anyone else does have a question for Sean. Maybe just unmute your line and ask. Otherwise, I'm going to hand back over to Amir and see if he's got a few final comments with you, Sean, and then hopefully we'll see if we can get Sister Miriam on the line.
Jazakallah khair, Khalik, and Jazakallah khair, Sean, for your very honest and candid comments on your journey. But I'd quickly like to get on to Miriam, who's been very patiently waiting all this time. G'day, Miriam. He's still there, mate. Can you unmute yourself?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Yes, we did it. All the way to
Right, let me turn them. Okay, you've got me on this one. Okay.
Whichever one. I don't know, Khalik,
So I've got two of me on my screen.
Okay. So,
okay.
Miriam,
Hi,
welcome.
Walaikum assalam.
Mashallah, mashallah. How wonderful. I'm so happy to be here.
No, it's fantastic to see you, Miriam, honestly. I mean, I had my doubts with your connection and also the timing. Have you had breakfast yet? So tell us what time it is in Australia at the moment.
It's 8:30 in the morning now.
Oh, but it was 7:30 when we kicked off.
Yeah.
So you've been early doors for you. So anyway, Jazakallah khair for joining. Absolute pleasure to see you again. So I think you've sort of heard most of the session, albeit intermittently. But Miriam, for the audience members who've not met you, if you'd like to sort of tell us a little bit about your background, what you do, what you're doing in Australia, and when you're coming back, and also obviously your journey into Islam, if you would.
Okay, so my name's Miriam, and I was born and raised in Kent. My family were not particularly religious there. I was the, how can I say? So my mother, bless her, sent us to Sunday school, the good old Methodist Methodist chapel. On a Sunday morning, off we went, and we said, "Why do we have to go?" And she said, "Because I don't know. And if you don't have knowledge of something, you can't make any choices. You know, you have to find out things." And she said, "I don't know about religion, so you go to Sunday school." So off we went. So that sort of woke my my love of God. My love of God. So when I was 18, I married and went off to live in Devon. And I lived in Devon for 30 years. Whilst in Devon, I raised a large family, 6 children, plus a foster child for 2 years. We ran a small business employing 8 people. So we were pretty busy. I was very much a member of our local church. I was a member of the church council. I was a member of the parish council. We had Bible study classes at our home. So, you know, religion was, for me, it was quite a big thing, you know, and tried to instill it in my family. But the more you look into something, as my mum said, you need knowledge to make decisions. If you have no knowledge of something, you can't make decisions. And the more you learn about something, the more questions you have. And, you know, I said to my local priest, I question these things. These things I question. I read the different gospels and they're all saying the same thing, but different. And there's certain things that I question. And the priest said, well, sometimes I question these things, but it's my faith that I just believe. He said, but you can carry on searching until your heart is happy. So at that time, I stopped going to church. I didn't know what my alternative was, but I stopped going to church because what I was saying, I wasn't believing. But my faith in God was still very strong. So at the time, this was around 1990. So there was no internet. There was no internet. And 2 of my sisters, I had 4 sisters and a brother. And 2 of my sisters married Muslims in Australia. But as I say, at the time, there's no internet, and telephones calls were so expensive. So it's not I could phone them and ask them anything about the religion, you know. And where I lived, I was living in Devon, sit by the seaside, Paynton in Devon I was living. But there's no obvious Muslims. The only foreigners in the area were people who worked in the restaurants or the doctors. You just didn't see any foreigners. So it wasn't a religion I knew anything about. So what happened, my children were very young. I had 6 children under 8 at that time. And I used to buy, and my family were all abroad, so I had no family around me. So I used to buy toys and clothes from the charity shops. And I was rummaging through the children's books one day, and I found a Islamic children's book on wudu. And then with it was another book on the prophets. So I took those, read them, and I thought, my sisters are Muslim. I must go and, you know, seek more about these. So I went to the second-hand bookshop and I found pamphlet books, science in the Quran, women in the Quran, Jesus in the Quran, those sort of books. And I thought, I need to know more about this Quran. So I ordered myself one from the shop and I read it. And of course, because I'm used to reading the Bible, I could instantly connect with the words of the Quran and how it was written. And I thought, this is a good book. This is a good book. So I started reading it again. And I got to Surah Baqarah, and it says, this is a book of which there's no doubt to those that believe. And I thought, this is it. This is it for me. This is bells are ringing in my head, you know. So by this time, it was about 1993. And I said to my husband at the time, I want to be a Muslim. And he said, no. He said, we've got a very young family and it would be unfair to the family. It would disrupt the family too much. So he said no. So I said, okay, you know, if it's meant to be, it'll be. And so it was left. My faith in God was still there, obviously. And of course, because I didn't know any Muslims around me, I didn't know if I just said the Shahada, I'd been Muslim, but I didn't know that. So many years went by with my God showing me many signs along the way. And one day I left my family. They'd all grown up, all the children had grown up, they'd all married, they had all got their own homes. And I left my family and went on a journey to find me. I didn't know that at the time, but that's what I was doing, basically. And a girlfriend asked me to go on holiday, a sunny holiday. I thought, oh, I've never been on a sunny holiday before. So we went off to Turkey. And basically, the first day we were there, of course, wherever you are in Turkey, there's a mosque just down the road, and the adhan goes off 5 times a day. And I thought, wow, listen to that. What a most fantastic sound. I've never heard anything so wonderful in all my life. And my whole body started vibrating as I heard it. And I thought, oh, I love that. That's so wonderful. And meanwhile, my friend was standing beside me saying, oh my goodness, what a caterwauling, what a noise. Do we have to listen to this racket all the time? And then I realized, you know, that God, Allah, he opens the ears and the eyes and the hearts of those he chooses. So not everybody hears and sees things the same way as you do. And that was really the start of my journey into Islam. And again, various signs from Allah along the way. And it was coming up for Ramadan 2016. And as I said, I have a large family here in Australia, a very large family. So the night for us in the UK, it was the night before Ramadan, first day of Ramadan. And in Australia, of course, they were waking up to their fasting. So I wanted to put on a message to my family and friends. And I started to type, you know, to my family and friends, and I wish you, you know, every happiness in this blessed month, blah, blah, blah. And again, I had this feeling overpower me, overcome me, that I had to write. And I changed what I'd written to, I want to make a declaration of faith. And I wrote my Shahada out on Facebook. And this is how I became Muslim. So I told the world, my family, the world, everybody, I was Muslim at that moment. And I thought, that's it, I've done. There's no going back, there's no changing, this is me now. And I haven't looked back since. I haven't regretted a moment of my life now. And I'm very happy.
MashaAllah, Miriam. That's
Alhamdulillah.
Absolutely epic story. But
that's a condensed version. Oh my God, I've got so much.
I can imagine.
Allah is wonderful to me.
Alhamdulillah.
And I'm so blessed.
And I mean, just after it went viral, let's say, was there any comeback, any reprisals? How did your parents take it, etc., etc.?
Okay, so my dad, my dad's no, my dad's just not there. He's not there at all. He has 2 Muslim daughters, well, 3 now, 3 Muslim daughters, and 2 non-Muslims, daughters and a non-Muslim son. And he loves us all dearly, but he doesn't understand. And he feels if he doesn't understand, he's not in control. And so, yeah, he doesn't understand the religion at all. So he's quite anti, you know, quite anti. And yeah, things can be difficult at times.
No, understandably. I mean, it must be hard for him, and it's not an easy thing for anyone.
Yeah.
But a question that I asked Brother Suleiman and also Brother Sean was, and we know each other from the Al-Emaan. You helped out at the Open Day, and you did a lot at AEC. And we know from your wonderful AEC story during Ramadan as well. But how could the community help better new Muslims transition to religion?
Okay, so so what the brothers said about
mentoring,
what it is, being a revert is a very lonely place, because you're in between the two worlds, you know, and you feel you don't really belong to either. You're a strange creature in between, you know. And a lot of the time, because you as born Muslims have grown up with your Muslim life, there's so many things we don't understand why you do things. And sometimes, you know, you just presume everybody knows these things.
No, we don't.
You know? But it's things like Nabi. I didn't know what Nabi meant, you know, until I'd been a Muslim for 2 years. And we was in classes one day and they were talking about Nabi. And I said, I've got to stop you here. I said, what on earth are you talking about? I said, I've no idea what you're talking about. And they said, oh, it's their prophet. And I said, but I don't know that. I've never heard this word before. I don't know what it means, you know. So it's little things. It's little things. But yes, we're very lonely. So, you know, when it's Christmas time and Easter and birthdays and all these things, we don't celebrate, but our families do. And of course, we don't want to disrespect our families. So we have to sort of find a way to be part of their happiness, but without joining in their celebrations. And that is really, really difficult thing to do. And then on the other side, when it comes to Eids, you know, we come to the masjid and we join in with all of our community. Wonderful. And then everybody goes home to their families and then we're left on our own. So yes, and in the last 2 years, I've been very blessed to have families invite me to share Eids with them. And that has been wonderful, absolutely wonderful, you know, because that makes you feel more part of the community. It makes you feel you're in the right place. So yeah, that's a good. For me personally, it's being a woman. One of the difficulties is marriage. You know, as a revert, I don't know, or not just me, but other reverts, they get taken advantage of because they don't know their rights. They don't know, or they don't necessarily have a wali because their families aren't Muslim. So who will guide them? Who will, you know, they don't understand the process. So, you know, if there are single brothers and sisters, especially reverts that are looking to marry, be active, even if it's just making sure they know the process of nikah, the mahar, the dowry, you know, whatever you call it, the marriage money, the marriage gift, the understanding of it, what it's about, why. Because these things aren't really explained. So it's everyday things that are difficult like this. So yes, the mentoring thing is a good thing. And as Brother Sean said, it's got to be somebody who you connect with, which is a difficult thing, really.
we're all different, aren't we? I mean, you made some great points there, Miriam, and Sister Maria touched upon it earlier in terms of, you know, interaction. We need to sort of integrate more with, you know, people of other faiths, and so that way.
I might add that Keston are very good at this. They are, and they do make you feel welcome. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, you can find a friend. And this is the thing, when somebody new walks into the masjid, make sure you say hello. You know, do they need anything? Is there anything you can do? Invite them around for coffee and chat to them, because you can't always just chat at the masjid, you know. Invite them and get to know them and see what they know and what they don't know and what help they need. That is important, I feel.
What we need is a cafe at the Al-Emaan Centre. So,
alhamdulillah, mashallah, that would be wonderful.
Uncle Taha, if you're watching, you know what to do. You know what to do with that terrace area. I'm sure we can get planning permission.
Or just even a Costa machine, right? Just get one of those Costa machines in there.
We can
just a table and a chair to sit down.
we did have a freak outside.
I'll bring my cakes.
Mashallah.
Cakes are never too far away. Cakes are never too far. The other thing, Miriam, is that a great point you made was that I think as organic Muslims or Muslims that are born into Islam, we do take a lot of things for granted. I mean, I have to confess, I don't think I knew what Nabi was till much older on. But we do take for granted a lot of the cultural aspects, which again, growing up, I didn't realize were, you know, were particularly Islamic. I just thought they were Pakistani or what families did, or et cetera, et cetera. So there is a lot of things that we take for granted, and I completely sort of resonate with that. And just on that point of, I mean, the particular sessions called the New Muslim Experience. I mean, for me, you know, I sometimes do feel like a new Muslim because we're learning every day, and I'm definitely, you know, feel rawer each day for what I've learned, because it's humbling with the knowledge that you mentioned. So I think in that respect, we're all new Muslims or born again Muslims. Is that a thing? I don't know.
It is for sure.
Excellent. So I'm just going to see if there's any questions from the floor, Miriam. I know there's lots of people who've sort of joined the call to see you. So I'm just wondering if any of them would like to open up their mic. So I'll hand over to Khalid to see if he can hold
Sure. Yeah, amazing journey. Jazakallah khair. Right, so I'm going to hand it over to the floor. There's been lots and lots of comments while you've been speaking, so I'm just going to say, well, Sabina, Sister Mema, anyone who'd like to ask a question. Awais has got a question. He's got his hands raised. Whoever would like to. I think, Awais, let's let you go first, since you got your hand raised very nobly, and then hand it over to some of those who are who have been putting comments in.
Hey, assalamu alaikum. Hey, Mariam, how's it going? I'm not going to do a really bad Australian accent and embarrass myself like some people.
It's funny because the Australian accent here is very multicultural.
Oh, interesting. Whereabouts in Australia are you?
Suburbs of Sydney.
Oh, interesting.
The nearest city here is Liverpool. So.
Oh, interesting. I think that's the nearest city to Brother Suleiman as well, from the UK. Quick question, because I've been to Cornwall as well, and I went last year actually, and I was shocked to see, as in I could only find one mosque, and it was like in the middle of this village, right in the middle of Devon.
Exactly.
So it was shocking to me, for someone coming from London. I was just curious, have you connected with your priest since you converted?
He moved on just after I left there, but this remember was 1993. And when I actually converted was 2016.
Okay, so, yes.
And that was in London. So
yeah. But then what about the congregation in the church? Do you still keep in contact with any of them?
No, that was such a long time ago. It's a different time, a different world, a different lifetime, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually, because as in something that Sean was saying, how his friend circle, he sees less now. And it's amazing from each one of you, like Suleiman yourself, you come from like different experiences, but you're in your different stages from your journey when you accepted Islam.
It's not always that you don't see them, and it's not always a definite thing that, you know, decision that they've made not to see you or that you've made not to see them. I think it's that your lifestyle changes. And, you know, when your lifestyle changes, you go in a different direction. And so you don't necessarily see the same people. But, you know, when I do make contact with old friends and what have you, they're just as happy to sit down and have a coffee and a chat, you know, as they ever were. But it's just your life has gone in a different direction. So I don't think it's people that have left you. I think it's just that,
I think it's a really nice quote I once heard was, as in you are the main actor of your film, and it's the cast around you that continues to change, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that was my question.
So I agree with that one.
Jazakallah khair. Awais, thank you very much for answering there. I'm going to actually jump over Sabina and Umar for a moment because Sean's got a great question, and I thought I'd formally introduce you to Sean, who's another one of our panelists, and let him ask his question.
I think I have met Sean in the the masjid.
Oh, mashallah, mashallah. Sean, okay, lovely. Well, Sean, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember my question now. Oh yeah.
I saw your hand waving.
By the way, it was nice to hear your story and stuff. Like, it's very interesting hearing other people's journeys and how they found Islam. Like, because we kind of went through the same thing in the sense of like accepting Islam. So it's nice. And even like what you said about how you feel like as a revert, you kind of, it's like you kind of feel alone in a sense. Like even that was quite, I understand that. I do get what you mean by that. Even I think there's been times like I've gone to a mosque and I kind of feel like people look at me kind of like, why am I here? Maybe it's just me in my head, but I get what you mean by that still. I think, yeah. But my question was, how did it feel when you like announced on Facebook that you were gonna take your Shahada, and like what was people's responses? Because like, funny enough, not everyone I know knows. I didn't tell anyone that I was Muslim. Like even now, only a few people that I know I'm Muslim. So it's quite interesting that you actually told everyone like that. So how did it feel?
Do you know, I didn't really have any negative. I had a couple of wows, really, you know, but not really anything negative or anti. Most people were either pleased for me, happy that I was happy. Even those that weren't Muslim were happy that I was happy. And it was a decision that I made. You know, it's not like I married some bloke from abroad and became his wife and therefore became Muslim. No, it was my choice. And people who knew me, knew my background, like my children were all grown up. I think my youngest was 20, my baby was 26 or 27 when I reverted, you know. So they said, we're not surprised, was their comments. We're not surprised.
I got that comment a lot actually.
Yeah.
Someone said to me, I thought he was already Muslim. Like, I was like, what? Seriously? Like, some of my friends thought I was already, they just said, oh, they knew it was going to happen. They could tell by I think because at the time, there was a lot of things I stopped doing before I even thought about being Muslim without realizing. Like, for example, I stopped eating pork, I stopped drinking alcohol, stopped going out, just because they didn't really have a reason to do it. I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I think it's weird how, it's just weird. So I'm kind of.
SubhanAllah. Wow, SubhanAllah. Jazakallah khair for that's an excellent question, excellent angle to the question. I'm going to ask Sabina if she would like to ask her question now, if she's still there, and if you do want to unmute your line. Okay, Jazakallah khair. Sabina, over to you.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Maryam.
Walaikum salam.
Do you know, I recognize your eyes. You were the first person that I saw when I moved to Keston. I moved to Orpington. And I came to the masjid for the first time, not knowing which way I should go. You're the first person that I saw. You opened the doors and you made the sisters make room for me and my daughter. MashaAllah. And I recognize those beautiful eyes. MashaAllah. What I wanted to say is that, you know, listening to your story and listening to Sean's story, I actually feel really guilty. I actually feel that most of my life and even now, I don't think I knew enough about my religion to be a good ambassador for Islam, to be a good representative of Islam. And many people don't. And I feel guilty, and I feel bad that we're, you know, as a ummah, actually, many people that I've met just gloss over these things. You know, you were saying that there's these deep questions. There were these questions inside you that needed answering.
Yeah.
I think I know of many Muslim people who, when I started asking these questions about Islam, they would just say to me, oh, you don't need to look that deeply. You know, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. You pray your salah and you fast, and that's it. You don't need to look that deeply. And it's sad because actually it wasn't until I looked that deeply that I found some calmness in my heart.
Yes.
Because we don't look that deeply, we can't then answer other people's questions. Or when people, you know, like somebody, people have said to me that, oh, you know, you Muslims, this, that, and the other, but you do drink. And I said, no, I don't drink. She goes, no, but you Muslims do drink. And I've had those kind of things.
This is one of the things with my dad, you know, and I was saying about my dad. Here in Australia, there are many Muslims. There's many everything in Australia where we are here. I mean, the suburbs of Sydney, and it is very, very multicultural. So many different peoples here. And my dad has been here since 1981, my family. So over 40 years, they have seen everything, you know. And a lot of times, you know, they've gone to the wedding parties. And my dad said, yeah, there's all the good Muslim men on one side and all the good Muslim women on the other side. He said, and they'd have all their cokes and things on the table, and then under the table they'd have their bottles of whiskey. And they'd be drinking their whiskey and coke, you know. And of course, he's seen all this hypocrisy over the years. Many drug dealers are Muslim here, and you know, there's big gang wars and things, you know, and so there's lots of bad things, and they see a lot of the hypocrisy of the Muslim people. So they only see the bad side. They see the terrorists on the TV. They see the hypocrisy of the drink and drugs of born Muslims who are not practicing. And they don't see the good side. I said, Dad, if 3 of your daughters have become Muslim, there must be something in it. If it was so bad, we wouldn't have done, you know, we wouldn't have joined of our own choice, you know. So yeah, a lot of people are Muslim by name, and they don't really, you know, understand the blessing that they've been given.
I think that that's you know, something that comes across, isn't it? It's if with those things that you're kind of born with, or you've had, you don't necessarily always have the value for it.
It's the same. It's the same in the Christian world. It's the same
yeah, I was going to say exactly. Yeah, it's in all aspects. But you know, I think that's the thing. We can only but pray for them and make it, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them that understanding of the faith. But it's across the board, and our efforts have got to be that, you know, we have to do our best. We try to, you know, we ask Allah for forgiveness, and you know, we can only just pray for those, and hopefully they'll come around. But mashallah, jazakallah khair for answering that.
I find when we do speak as new Muslims, and we do speak to our fellow born Muslims, it does awaken the good Muslim in them, and it does make them want to look more into their religion that they've grown up with. You know, it awakens the love inside them.
And that's the beauty, mashallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you guys all that barakah, mashallah, to help us along our way, you know, hold our hands and help us. So it's wonderful. Jazakallah khair for answering that. It's beautiful. Umar, you had a question? Are you still there?
Yeah, jazakallah khair, Khariq. Yes, alaikum, Maryam. Pray you well.
Mashallah, alhamdulillah.
When are you back?
I'm very well. Good question. My visa is until February now, and the story is I originally come out for a 3-month holiday, and of course COVID happened while I was here, and they cancelled the flights, so immigration extended my 3-month visa to a 12-month visa. I can get a flight back any time, but what am I coming back to? The flu season and a lockdown. So I'm waiting until the new year, and then I'll talk with the people that be then. And,
you're waiting till the cricket season, Miriam. I know that's what you're in. You know, that's what it's all about. You know?
Yeah. Well, they are. Alhamdulillah, the COVID is not very prevalent here. They really, people take advice from the government, and they are following what they're asked to do. And of course, Australia is not so vastly populated as the UK is. So yeah, there's very little COVID cases here, but they're on top of it. They're on top of it, and people are very wary. So a lot of the sports places are opening up now. Every other seat, of course, but we can go in. So that's a good thing, and we can actually watch the games.
So you'll be at the test match then?
Inshallah, that would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're jealous of all that wonderful heat that you're enjoying. There's another question here from Myanmar, who's got hand raised here, and then after that, I think it was Alina or Mariha after that. So Myanmar, if you'd like to unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, no, just I wanted to say salam to Sister Maryam. Lovely to hear her. Nice to see her as well.
Alaikum salam, Sister Maryam.
Yeah, look forward to see you, Sister Maryam. Lovely to see you.
And
nice to hear from you.
Give you a big hug.
Yeah, inshallah, I'll keep in touch. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, dear.
Walaikum assalam. Yeah, so over to, I think it was either next was Alina or Mariha. I think Mariha was next. Mariha, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Assalamu alaikum. It wasn't really a question as much as a comment that it's really interesting listening to everyone's stories, that there's a lot of mirrors between the experiences of new revert Muslims and Muslims who are born Muslim but kind of re-embrace the faith or become more practicing later in life. You kind of can see similar patterns of, you know, having not necessarily breaking off friendships and relationships, but having them drift apart, having either family members or friends having backlash from them. You know, why is it all of a sudden you're wearing the scarf? And, you know, sadly, sometimes getting a harsh response from, you know, Muslim relatives or friends can be, you know, even worse in a sense, because like subhanallah, you know, it's, you know, people who are meant to understand the beliefs, so it can be kind of difficult on both ends. Obviously you can't directly, you know, compare both experiences, but it was just interesting for me listening to that to see actually, myself personally and other people I know have been through similar things, having been born Muslim.
Jazakallah khair, lovely comment there. I think Umar's got another question here before I go over to Sabiha.
The question I had was actually for the three of esteemed panelists, in particular Al-Emaan, maybe just to start with yourself. If you were to take lead on designing an initiative for new Muslims within a community, what would it be? What would it look like?
To design an initiative, I'm going to need to think about that one, Aki. What?
You're hitting with a big question.
Yeah,
we need to know, man. We've ain't got much time.
I would say one of the things, and the sister said it, and this is something that listening to your story, sister, Assalamu alaikum, is that I don't want to bring up old things, but when I used to go to the masjid a lot of times in the past, sometimes I didn't feel part of the community, brother. Did not feel part of the community. I used to make my salah, and not now, but I'm talking about when, you know, the early days. I didn't feel part of the community, and I didn't feel like the community made me feel part of it. So indirectly kind of answering your question, I'll just say that, you know, brothers and sisters who are there really have to try to make a concerted effort to really make new Muslims feel welcome, to really welcome them in. Imam Shakil at Lewisham Masjid is something that he talked about a lot. You know, go and talk to different people, you know, whether they're part of your culture or not. Break down these culture barriers, you know, have conversations with them, invite them, as the sister said, invite families, invite people around, especially for Eid days and things like that. Those kind of initiatives like that, people working individually, people doing it in groups, and really making people feel welcome. Because sometimes, you know, if you don't know yourself and you're very early stage, you can feel, as the sister said, and our brother said as well, you can feel lonely. So it's got to be an individual and a group thing, you know. But again, and I don't want to take too much of the airtime, but I've got to be honest with you, because I'm up here in the Midlands. There's a lot of born Muslims. A lot of the youths that I teach in schools, they don't know the Islam. They've been taught how to pray. They've been taught Arabic. They can speak Arabic pronunciation better than me. But when you talk to them about the Quran, they don't understand what the Quran is and what it means. You know, so I think sometimes if the blind can't lead the blind, you know. So, you know, it has to be people who really understand the religion. And then if they understand the religion, like yourself, Omar, I have to draw you as an example, you will automatically reach out to people like the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did, led by example, talk to people, didn't just stay in the masjid like the Sahaba did. They went out of the masjid and they gave dawah out of the masjid. They led the life that encouraged people to come to Al-Islam. They went to Turkey, they went all different places, and that's it for me. It's not just about what's in the message, it's about reaching out and doing things like you do at Al-Emaan and integrating people by them realizing that Muslims are normal people, just like anybody else. They're normal people, you know. So I don't.
Are you happy to take lead on that project? Start Monday.
You come to Birmingham and I'll take the lead up in Birmingham then. Yeah, Aki, I mean,
just on that point, Sulman and the other panelists, sorry to jump on your question, Omar, but would the three of you, especially with your experience of your pre-Islam days, would you be advocating interfaith as an activity for us all to get involved in?
can you define, sorry if that seems like an ignorant question, define what you mean? I know what interfaith means, but what are you, be a bit more specific what you're saying there.
So for instance, quite simply, at Al-Emaan Centre, we're part of the Bromley Three Faiths group, which is an interfaith initiative between Al-Emaan Centre or the Muslims in Bromley, the Jews from Bromley Reformed Synagogue, and various churches. And we've done various projects together to, raise money for the refugees in Lewisham, etc., etc. We found that
Keston does do this well, actually, because they have the Three Faith Interfaith. They have the Piece of Cake, which they actively promote, which is an event. I mean, we went for a lovely walk through the woods at Keston, the Keston Woods to, I don't know what it's called, Keston Woods, to the fish ponds and what have you. And it was lovely. And you could just walk and talk to people, and they asked their informal questions to you as you chatted, and then you'd talk to somebody else. And that was really nice. And that's the thing, is the informal talking, but the gathering, it's the gathering. And as I say, Keston do that really well.
I think what we're getting at, Miriam, and thank you for sort of saying that we do it very well, but what we found is that it's not that well participated by the Muslims. So, it's a lovely event, but there's the same 3 or 4 Muslims that are always there. And coming back to the point about integration and knowing one another, knowing your non-Muslim brother, your non-Muslim neighbors, if we don't have that knowledge, how are we going to integrate? And then we then end up with sort of, Muslims divided amongst themselves.
Brother, to cut you there, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head, and it's kind of what you said as well, Omar, is that sometimes if we don't know ourselves, we don't know other people. And, if we don't know our religion, then it's hard for us to spread our religion, and that hits it on the nail to me. Some people just think they have this view of Al-Islam that it's secular, and it's like, stay away from those people or whatever, and therefore they don't understand that it's a global religion that's supposed to be spread, and it's supposed to mix and integrate with people. So
I say with a lot of people, it's a cultural thing. They're Muslim, they're good Muslims, but they do stick to their own cultures.
So I think this is where we need to break the barriers down. And I'm saying it now. I'm inviting everyone on this call to come to an interfaith session. The ones that we've been running for the last 2 years, I found them incredibly useful, quite eye-opening, and we really have galvanized.
What is really useful is the Open Mosque Day. The Open Mosque Day is a really good one, of people coming in and the general public just asking questions.
Yeah, and again, we worked together on that one, didn't we?
Yeah, that's a really good day for interfaith.
Yeah, I think across the board, it's about having that consistency in the community, and we really need to continue with that. To drive everyone in the area and in the wider Ummah, really, just to become a bit more participant. I think we've become a bit complacent, and we're all guilty of life, aren't we? And it's about bringing our faith onto the forefront. And I think that is something that we just got to keep reminding ourselves and reminding each other. I think that is what it's about, isn't it? The idea is that we talk about it and we discuss it, and it's about a reminder to ourselves first before reminding others. And I think that's an important part of it.
As Sean said, you've got to live that life. You've got to show people by your actions, and that is so important. As we outsiders, as newbies.
Oh, you're definitely not outsiders and definitely not newbies. I think we've got so much to learn from yourselves, mashallah.
This is what we saw, and as I said, my story is very big and very long, and it's the people's actions.
But you see, you have the purity. You have the purity. You don't have the what I would say, that the rust that comes from the culture, or the dilution that comes from somebody who kind of grows up in it. Because you have that purity, it's a bit easier for you to see what's going on. And I think we've got a lot to learn from that. And I think across the board, we all need to sort of try to rise a little bit and embrace it, you know. Jazakallah khair. It's been fantastic, beautiful comments. Omar, I don't know if you managed to answer the entirety of your question, but I would just revert back to you just in case before I hand over to Sabiha.
Amazing. Jazakallah khair. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. Over to Sabiha. Sabiha has been waiting patiently. Jazakallah khair for waiting. Over to you for your question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Mariam, we miss you so much. I heard you are coming back.
And I miss you all too.
Oh, thank you. You're having a nice time over there, no? MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. And with my family, how Allah's been blessed me with this.
Yeah, it's nice. We pray and hope if we will be safe over there and have a safe journey when you're coming back. And your ideas is very good. Yes, I was thinking we have to do something about in the mosque as a group or something to welcome. And you are not the stranger. You are just like a newborn baby, you see. You know that's all your...
You know, I feel like that sometimes.
No, I mean that...
I feel like that toddler sort of, you know, running along and then suddenly falling flat on my face for something.
Because all your sins is wiped away. So, you know, just like a newborn baby. So we are so welcome. So it's very nice. I was thinking, listening to everyone, Sean and Suleiman, brother Suleiman and brother Sean. Welcome.
Yes, no, it's beautiful, mashallah. It's wonderful community. Jazakallah khair for the questions.
So I hope and pray to everyone, have a safe time, you know, and pray for this thing is finished, you know, this
yeah, inshallah.
As soon as possible, and pray for all. Mariam, you pray for us also, you see, because you're far away and soon you'll be traveler, so.
I will.
Inshallah.
So lovely to hear from you.
We're sort of running out of time very quickly. It's been such an amazing journey on this session. I think we've got two more comments, and I think I'm going to hand it back over to Amir, and then I think Sophie, you wanted to make a comment. Over to yourself.
Thanks, Khalik. Yeah, there is little time. I'm not going to say much, but I just want to say, Mariam, Jazakallah khair. You, amongst your words of wisdom, pearls of wisdom, we have so much to learn from all three of you. I think we're very blessed as a community to have Omar have a Muslim corner for there being Muslims converting to Islam, mashallah, reverting. And Mariam, just going to touch on something that you said. I've talked to you many a time and asked you lots of advice, and thank you. You know, before I started wearing hijab, I was, you know, how do you feel wearing hijab? What's your perception of hijab? You know, and you helped me. And just the smiley face and the positivity. So Allah reward you. We all have so much to learn from each other. And I think as Muslims that are born, there's a lot of cultural baggage and there's a lot of insecurity being born a Muslim. You know, are we going to be accepted living in the West? What can we do? What can't we do? So we've also got our issues. And I think as we grow and learn, Allah puts things in our paths. And yeah, I just wanted to say, Jazakallah khair to all of you. This is an amazing opportunity, and Sheikhs Breaks, well done.
Jazakallah khair for the lovely comments, mashallah. I think unless there's anybody else, I know there was lots and lots of comments in the chat. I'm not going to read through all of them, but Mariha or Sabina, if you guys want to quickly unmute and leave your last comments before I hand over to Amir.
Yeah, it was just a really quick one. I guess for me, one of the main, unique selling points of Islam is how you can have a Muslim who is from basically anywhere in the world. And I think, as you know, you find this with Islam more than any other religion. And what's so amazing about Al-Emaan Center, alhamdulillah, is this is truly represented in the mosque. When you walk into Al-Emaan Center, you see Muslims of every single background, you know, ethnicity-wise, culture-wise. And I think what's so amazing is, as a new Muslim walking into that, you have a real representation. What is sad is in that I'm not, insulting other masjids and things, but when you go into a mosque and see a massive predominance of one particular ethnic group, it's not representative. And I'm not a new Muslim, so I can't say, but I would assume that maybe that can be a bit off-putting because it doesn't really show Islam to be inclusive in the same way. So I guess it's just highlighting a positive about our masjid, and inshallah we should try to be kind of a beacon and a role model for other masajid, and to keep this up, inshallah, and to encourage inclusivity.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lovely comment.
Add to that, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Something that I think that some people in our masjid could take away is that that when a lot of people of one background get together, they start to speak their language. So I found on a number of occasions where I've turned up, I can just about understand a few things, but I don't feel that I can speak it. So then I do feel left out. And I know that, you know, it can happen when somebody doesn't speak any of that language, but because there's 3 or 4 people that speaks that language, they will just continue speaking that language. So I think as Muslims, we need to be aware that we're not, that we are being inclusive. Our masjid has got a community that is big and varied, but we still need to make sure that when we get together with other people from our backgrounds, we're still not just speaking in that one language, because then other people won't be able to get involved into that conversation.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I think that that's an unconscious bias that one has. It's a difficult one within the communities. I think, you know, bringing the balance of, you know, what the community needs at the same time as trying to keep that openness. And I totally agree with you. I mean, I've often been to places where I have totally not understood, and maybe gone for Jummah prayers, and you end up, you know, not understanding anything that's been said, and you just get the khutbah and do your prayer. But I think that is something that hopefully is changing across the board. And I think I know Omar and Armin know more about that because they're in the wider community of the masjids. But certainly, I think this is something that is largely the kind of the leaders are aware of, that, you know, of course, English being the, you know, dominant language now across most areas now, that needs to be addressed, especially in those community-led masjids or congregations. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody, for comments. Unless there's anybody else, I'm going to hand it over to Amr just to see if you had some more questions and comments with the panel. And then we can obviously come back, because I think we can go on for hours on this one, Amr, right?
Sabina, Sophie, everyone for their comments. Just saw quite a cool thing from Bezat suggesting a weekly coffee morning for new Muslims, or for anyone who wants to drop in for a chat. As I said before, I put it out there. The cafe is, you heard it here first. That's my that's my wish. That's on my wish list, as well as a radio station and the rest of it, as Omar knows. So no pressure. But yeah, no, that kind of thing, you know, hopefully, inshallah, once COVID disappears, and let's all pray for that we can sort of move forward with a number of activities that are on the horizon. Khalik himself is going to be the Scouts lead, I think, and we've got a whole host of things that we want to sort of kick off. So I think as a collective, we just need to pray for COVID to run its course. So actually, I mean, we are sort of not running out of time, but it's been a couple of hours. Mashallah, what an amazing session. I mean, like Luke said, we could go on and on, but I would ask actually the guests to perhaps leave their last comments, and then we'll start to wrap up. So Miriam, you're on the screen. Anything to add to the discourse we've had?
No, I just thank you all greatly for allowing me to be part of your community, you know, and yeah, I just, it's being part of the Muslim community is a blessed thing. It's a blessed thing, and alhamdulillah, you know, one of the things that Sheikh asked me when I did my shahada in the mosque officially, he said, how do you feel the difference, you know, between what you were before and what you are now? And I said, stress-free, because I don't worry about anything, where I'm going to live, where I'm going to work, or anything, because alhamdulillah, Allah is with me, and he will provide for me. So there's no stress. This is the best thing about being Muslim.
Subhanallah. Lovely to speak to Miriam. Lovely to see you again. Jazakallah khair. Suleiman, any last comments from you?
Yes, what I would say to Brother Omar is that I'm going to think more deeply upon his question, because the question was asked in two different ways, and I will get back to him and to yourselves in terms of any ideas that I have. And I would just say, just a hadith, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that, you know, none of us will have true faith until we wish for our brother what we wish for ourselves, you know. So, you know, basically, with all of us, if we see somebody and we put ourselves in that person's situation, then we can think, well, what can we do to help that person? So yeah, that's my finishing comment, basically. Yeah.
Jazakallah khair. Sean?
Just want to say thanks for listening. You know, the day I accepted Islam was probably the best day of my life, alhamdulillah. And like, I just hope, obviously I'm still learning a lot in terms of like Arab. I want to learn Arabic, inshallah. And I'm trying to do, obviously I feel like, yeah, like at first things were very like, I think I'm getting more distracted now because I'm kind of just getting used to it. So I need to stay more focused, but inshallah I'll get there and learn more. I just want my knowledge to expand, you know, just get closer to God, inshallah. Like that's it. But thanks for everyone for listening, and yeah, I hope to meet more of you when lockdown and Corona is gone, inshallah.
Inshallah.
But yeah.
One last quick question, Sean. So how do you get the earpods to actually stay in your ear? Because they don't stay in mine.
I don't know, you know. I really don't know.
Special ears, you see. He's blessed with special ears, you see.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
I need to send these back. Okay. So, I mean, what can I say? That has been an absolutely astonishing session. 2 hours of gold dust, really. So Jazakallah khair to all of you who joined, all of you listened all the way to the end. Brother Suleiman, Sister Miriam, all the way from Australia, epic. And of course, Brother Sean. My sort of parting comments before I hand back over to Khalik for the dua is that, and I was speaking to Umar about this the other day, and he's spoken a lot about this, and we've been reading books and books and books during COVID, and you know, fiqh and aqidah, and what it boils down to actually is, and these scholars are saying this as well, that we need to work on ourselves, really work on ourselves, and that will exude. And what Brother mentioned in terms of, if we basically just do good things, be good people, sounds like such a simple thing, but actually it's quite complex. That internal struggle to be the best you can will be the best example going forward, and actions do speak louder than words. So I think, you know, if we can work on ourselves and set an example for our children, our families, our neighbors, and inshallah non-Muslims, that's probably the best dawah we can do. So I think that's enough from me.
Mashallah.
So Khalik, if you can wrap up and your dulcet tones on the dua.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair to everybody. What an amazing session it's been. You know, just before I go, I was going to sort of just also say a short hadith that I had read recently, and I think it was pertinent to today's session, and inshallah it's authentic from Al-Bukhari. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, verily the believers are like a structure, each part strengthening the other. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he clasped his fingers together. And I think that is really pertinent, because we all need each other, and we all need to keep reminding each other to help ourselves. And I think that's really, really, you know, what, you know, I think that the core of this community is all about. And I think that it's been such an amazing session, and we all need each other, and we all need to continue to, you know, clasp each other's hands and go from strength to strength, inshallah. I'm going to end with a very, very short dua, inshallah. Again, I've got to say jazakallah khair to everybody who's joined and everyone who participated and the panelists. And just finish it with a very short dua saying, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina adhaban nar. Oh Allah, we ask to bless our wonderful guests and accept all their sacrifices and hardships. Make their journey filled with your blessings and make it easy for them in their continuous journey to come. Oh Allah, we ask you to bless our community. They have taken time out of their busy lives to join us in this gathering, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them and their lives and let them continue to go from strength to strength, inshallah. Oh Allah, please forgive any shortcomings from us, and please accept the efforts from the Al-Emaan Center and its trustees and the management and everyone who's involved with bringing this community together. Allah, we ask you to continue to unite our community and help us during these hard times with the second lockdown as well. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Jazakallahu khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair, everyone. We look forward to seeing you at the next Sheikhs Breaks. Couldn't leave the session without saying please donate generously to the masjid. You know where we are. The website, if you don't know by now, you'll never know. So please donate as much